Welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm, the podcast dedicated to helping you as a successful accounting, bookkeeping, and tax business. This show is dedicated to helping accounting professionals confidently and competently offer quality accounting services to get paid what they are worth. Each episode is conversational with tips and tricks to help you apply in your business as they relate to sales and marketing, offering quality accounting services, and getting paid what you're worth. In this process, we encourage you to like and listen to the other episodes, as well as to subscribe to this podcast to get updates as to new episodes as they're released. This podcast will actually help you become an accountrepreneur, as we call it, to help you work on your business with the advice from the experts. I'm Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center, and for more than 20 years, I've been working with accounting professionals to help them successfully implement strategies in their companies to build the businesses that they've always wanted, offering quality accounting services to clients, helping them with their businesses, and most importantly, getting paid what they're worth. Today, we actually have an excellent guest. It's Vanessa Ugatti, and she happens to be the author of the best-selling book, True Worth: How to Charge What You're Worth and Get It. It basically helps people go from utterly clueless and powerless to experts with confidence when charging their clients, although always ethically, by sharing their true worth blueprint, which cures the familiar problem. Now, she describes herself as being a miracle worker with magic and simply the best. Vanessa actually loves to empower and transform those who are basically working to offer quality services and really struggle because they undervalue themselves. So at the core of her work, she's actually increasing self-worth, which what she says is the heart of everything that we do that drives our behavior. So with all that being said, Vanessa, welcome to the show today.
Hi, Roger. Lovely to be here.
This is going to be exciting and fun. So your perspective as to how you got into this, I think, is quite interesting. So for our listeners, tell us a little bit of how your journey began that got you to this point.
So before I tell you the story, I just need to correct something you said,
please.
because you said I describe myself as a miracle worker. I would never say that. Somebody else described me as that, because I am not that kind of person. I would never be that arrogant. I just thought, oh my gosh, he thinks I've said that. No, somebody else said it, which is much better, isn't it?
Those are kind words. And yes, it is important how people perceive us. So yes, I appreciate the fact that you clarified it, because that perspective is good to know. So thank you.
So how did I get involved in this whole true worth thing? Well, I guess it's been quite a journey, I have to say, Roger. So going back pre-2013, I was already coaching professionals, including accountants, and around their mindset, because it's always the mindset, isn't it, that makes the difference as to how successful we are or not. But something was buzzing away in my mind, although I didn't know what it was. There's something else that I need to be doing, but I didn't have any idea what that was. And so, when you think there's something, you have to keep your eyes and ears really open. And so I was actually on the computer one day looking for inspiration to find out what this was. And the really strange thing was I stumbled across a marketing program specifically for coaches. And this marketing program was saying you need to have a niche. And I thought, well, I've heard about this niching thing, but I got no idea what my niche is. And also, I have no clue how to do it. So after a lot of procrastination, lots of us human beings are very good at procrastinating, and I'm sure accountants are just as bad as anybody else.
Of course.
Well, I'm probably the expert in procrastination as well, or have been. So I procrastinated over quite some time before I went on this program, but eventually I did sign up, having put myself through lots of pain to make that decision. And on one of the first workshops, they reminded us that we needed to have a niche. And they asked a question that I've long since forgotten. And I wrote down some answers. And among those answers was this subject of value or worth, or charging what you're worth. And I'll be totally honest with you, Roger, I had no idea how that had arrived on the piece of paper. So that in itself was interesting. And the person running the workshop, the people running the workshop said, well, that's very marketable. So I said, well, you're the experts, in which case I'm going to take a leap of faith. And probably lots of accountants wouldn't be the type of people perhaps who want to take a leap of faith. And I acknowledge that it's not always easy. However, I decided to be a nutcase and do that. So I took my leap of faith and I went out networking. And who do you see a lot of out networking? Well, at least in the UK, I don't know in other parts of the world. Accountants and lawyers, professional people, a lot of them. Is that true
Yes.
in the States as
It's
well,
very
Roger?
common. Yes, it's more the services industries that you'll typically run into.
Yeah. So I discovered quite quickly that undercharging, discounting for no reason, and overservicing clients were really commonplace problems amongst really good professional people, experienced people. You might think this was a problem for junior people, but not. It was not. It was a problem across the board. And so I came back quite excited thinking, well, that's good evidence, isn't it, that this subject is of interest. So then I dived in and I looked at some of the professional people I'd been working with, and I discovered that I had been helping some of them about with charging, which was, again, it was a bit of a revelation, but it makes sense because if you're working on people's mindset, if they lack confidence in one area, they're almost bound to lack confidence in charging because it's such an emotive subject for many of us. And so I thought, oh, great, that's fantastic. Some more evidence, because that's what I was doing. I was actually gathering evidence because I didn't know at the time exactly what I was going to be doing. So then the third thing that happened was, fortunately, I decided to shine the spotlight on myself. And actually, that was quite painful because that's when I discovered that I was totally hopeless and clueless when it came to charging. And actually, I'll be honest and say the whole sales process, I was hopeless and clueless. And so it was like a major light bulb moment. So as much as it was painful, it was also a light bulb moment because that was when I realized that my subconscious mind was the one who said, yes, this is what you need to be doing by putting it down on the paper. And then me following it. Because it knew that if I didn't solve it for myself, that I was going to be in trouble. And so I needed to solve it for me, and in the process then help other people as well. Carry on.
As you're describing that, I was just wanting to share that I think a lot of people go through the same experience that you're sharing. So as you're relating that, I'm actually reflecting on conversations I've had with people who've gone through the same kind of process. They've gone through that evolution of, how do I charge what I'm worth, and how do I niche myself? The niche that you're in, it's going to define in many ways your pricing. So please continue. I think I'm finding this very helpful.
So then there is another little part to the story, which may sound a little fanciful, but is the truth, is that I was in bed. And when you're half awake or half asleep, so it could either be, first thing in the morning or last thing at night. Well, at that point, the subconscious mind is still active, but the conscious mind is disappearing away. And a formula appeared in my mind. And the formula is in that little book that, that I wrote. And the formula, when I saw this formula, when I perceived it, I knew what it meant. This is the weird thing. I knew what it meant. And I also knew that it was correct. So I don't know if you want me to share that formula now, Roger,
please.
or if you've got some other
plans.
No,
I love this.
So the original formula was UV, which is understanding your value, plus CV, communicating your value, plus CD, confident delivering your fees, equals CW, charging what you're worth. And I actually only had 2/3. The first two parts and the last bit were there, but I didn't have that comfortable or confident delivering fees. For me, the understanding your value is the heart of it, because if people do not understand their own value, they're incapable then of being able to communicate value to their clients. And that's when people default on the price and they start talking about the price, but there is no understanding of value. And so therefore, it's really difficult for them to feel confident delivering their fees because there's no value there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. And I'd like to just dwell on that for a moment, because I think this is an essential part of your formula. When you look at the understanding value, it's really taking the time to assess what the client is ultimately receiving from the services that you're providing. And it's taking time to define, literally writing out, what are those values that they're receiving, the benefits that they're going to gain from having you do the service that you're about to do. And as you become more and more clear how they benefit from the services you're offering, your understanding of the worth of your value becomes more and more relevant. You start to now see, I actually am doing something of worth. I am delivering something that has value. And you're able to now start articulating it. Now, to be more specific, a lot of these benefits have a monetary gain. The client, because of the services you're offering, could be saving monies or making monies, or could be doing something in the organization that results in a profit margin of some sort. And that is truly a numerical valuation of the services. It's understanding the true value of what it is you're delivering. And so the more clarity you have there will then basically trickle down your formula to the confidence level. I'm obviously a lot more confident offering the services I'm about to provide when I know clearly what you're going to receive as a client. So I love the first phase of understanding that value.
Yeah. I say it's the foundation, and I say it's the foundation of everything. Not just financial in your business. Understanding the value of whatever we're doing is really important. But as human beings, we don't. Whatever our expertise is, it's very easy for us to take it for granted.
Yeah.
For anybody to take it
so let's go to
granted.
the second phase of the formula.
CV. Communicating your value, or communicate your value. Well, clearly, if you don't understand your value, you've got nothing to communicate value-wise.
It's hard to articulate it if you don't even understand what they're getting. So you have to be able to communicate this. And this goes to your advertising, your 30-second commercial, the actual description of what you're delivering in the engagement letter that you may be offering. So I love this part. The communication is so important.
Yeah. And so the way the formula came out, to me, was in exactly the right order. And then, of course, once you've got those two things in place, you're going to naturally be more confident delivering your fees. But there also needs to be some work done on that, potentially, because people's beliefs around money can be quite unconscious as well.
Yes.
And quite mixed. I don't know what the expressions you have in the States, but we have things like, money is the root of all evil, which actually was a misquote from the love of money is at the root of all evil. Filthy lucre. Do you know that one?
I do know that one.
See, maybe that was an American one in the first place. I don't know. They're just, things that all of us will have heard as we were growing up, depending on the families that we grew up in. And also people's upbringing, their background, all of that has an impact on their perception of money and how they feel about themselves and whether they think they're worth something. Because one or two of the things that come out when I'm working with clients are things like their background. If they've come from a poorer background, they have less self-worth around this whole money thing. Or some people have started out life doing one kind of job that much lower level, and then qualified to do, in this case, accounting or tax expert or whatever, higher level work, but their mind is still back in the days when they were a waiter or a secretary or whatever it was.
That's right. One of the things that I experience as I have these conversations with our clients, the accounting professionals, is when it comes to confidence, the first thing that we always, at least I always try to stress, is you need to have the confidence to look a fellow business owner in the eye as a peer, and in that confidence, that state, clearly state that you can provide the services that you're offering and meet the needs that they have, and do so for the fee you're charging. That confidence is essential when you verbally ask for the business and say this is what it's going to cost. So that confidence is key. And when you're talking about these cultural or societal type things that we may have had from our youth, one of the ones that I've found comes up often is the phrase "money doesn't grow on trees." It's
Yeah.
it's mom and dad sometime in our youth when we're asking for something as a child, they'll use the phrase of, money doesn't grow on trees. I just can't give you money. And so as a young child, we come to believe perhaps that money isn't abundant. And so it's very important to have a switch to understand that there is an abundance of it and you are able to get it. And when you have that subconscious switch that the money is there and that you can get the clients and you can get paid what you're worth, money doesn't become a fearful thing, and it doesn't become this thing that's elusive and hard to find. It becomes abundant. And so I love how you're addressing the psychology and some of the things that we might have brought to the discussion from our youth that really do impact us in our decision making, in our confidence.
Yes. And I always say to people that, when you're having those reactions, which are unconscious reactions, but they don't feel good, that's coming from a pattern. It's coming from the unconscious mind. And actually, it's really a child thing. It's not an adult thing. Because I see the subconscious mind as a child and the conscious mind as the adult. And so when you're caught up in that, if you're then making decisions from that unconscious mind that is feeling fearful or uncomfortable, you're not going to make decisions that work for your business. That is for sure.
Well, the unfortunate thing is I've dealt with people who literally are self-sabotaging their own success. They're limiting their success. And it's not because of the opportunity or the demand. It's not because of their skills or the services they're choosing to offer. It's simply the self-doubt that creeps in as to whether or not they're deserving of success or whether or not there is that abundance of need or clients out there to benefit from your services. So your formula addresses this so nicely. So again, let's just restate the formula again for everyone. And I'd like to get to that last element of what this all equals.
So it's UV, understand your value or understanding your value, plus CV, communicating your value, plus CD, confident delivering fees, equals CW, charging what you're worth.
And so what are we worth?
Well, it depends, doesn't it? The challenge with the whole charging thing, apart from the emotional side of it, is that it is dependent on what you're offering and what the value is. It's also dependent on who your clients are, isn't it? Because the value to one person would be different to the value to somebody else, but you can't keep changing the prices according to who's in front of you and guessing. Although I know that there are people who do that. They'll look at something and they'll think, oh, they can't possibly afford my prices, and so they'll discount them. So you have to decide, who do you want to be working with? What sort of clients do you want to work with? Do you want to work with the low-end clients who want lots for very little? Or do you want to be in the middle lot? Or do you want really high net worth clients? And so that is going to play quite a big part in it, isn't it?
Yes.
But whatever clients you choose, you also need to make sure that you're emotionally on board with that, particularly when it's the upper ones. Because if you decide, oh, well, I'm just going to have high net worth clients, but inside you're thinking, I don't deserve those, again, unconsciously, if that feeling is, oh my gosh, I can't possibly work with those sorts of people, you won't be able to attract those sorts of clients.
Yeah, so what you're describing here is often the ideal client when you're considering your avatar as to who your potential client ought to be and what you prefer or whom you prefer working with. And the nice part about this is I liked how you identified that there are certain needs or wants that they have as clients, and you need to kind of match up what you want. So for example, do you want to work with a lot of people that are basically looking for the savings, the deal, the discounted service? Or do you want to work with the people that appreciate and are wanting to pay for quality? They want the attention to detail. Or are you looking for someone that is just looking to have it taken care of and have the confidence and comfort in knowing that you've got their back and it's taken care of clearly? Each of these people have different needs or wants. And when you're selling your services to those clienteles, one, you're going to have to show that they got a good deal. You have to help them see the value in maybe a discount offering that they're receiving because of doing the work with you, or that you're going to provide the quality work that they're needing with the attention to detail that they expect. All these things are going to help them make their decision in seeing you as being the right choice for them and comfortably pay the services that you're providing, and in turn not regret what they're paying you. So this is really good. Now, I want to kind of break off into something here. As you teach people this formula, and as you interact with professionals who are trying to more effectively price and ask for these fees, what do you normally find as being the biggest challenge people face as they try to implement this?
It's changing their behaviours, isn't it? Especially if they're really strong behaviours that they've been doing for a long time. I have to really shine the light so people see, but in a way that hopefully isn't too painful for them. So they really see what they're doing to themselves, because the point is, it's always us doing it to ourselves. It's not the clients doing it. And as you say, deciding which clients you are, making sure they're a match for you, you've got a good match, is really important. I mean, in the UK, what I know is that a lot of traditional accountants will have a large number of clients, maybe 200 or 300, even in a small practice. They can't possibly have all the clients they want. So I'd be saying you need to classify your clients and see what you've got. How many of them actually meet what you would consider to be your ideal client? And have you got clients that are really not good clients at all? So it's actually getting people to realize that they're in patterns of behavior. They're in their comfort zone, shall we say, and they need to be willing to get out of the comfort zone to get different results, because if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to get the same results, aren't we? I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it does. And I'll complement it with something that I've seen regularly. For those that are starting their companies, I oftentimes find that they just out of a desire to get a new client, out of the eagerness to just get busy, they start taking on clients that they otherwise wouldn't want later on. And they know this as they're starting their conversation and engagement with the client. But more importantly, they oftentimes will cheapen their services and discount them to where really they aren't getting paid what they're worth, but they're getting a client. So they're celebrating the fact that they've now got a new engagement, but in quick order, in months, they're regretting the client. The client relationship is not a healthy one. It's perhaps antagonistic. They don't appreciate or value your services. They may try and take advantage of you, and all of this at a discounted rate. And so early on, one of the pieces of advice I always give is be very confident and clear as to what your pricing is and hold to it, because the best thing that you can do is be true to your fees, just because that's what's going to reward you for the work you're doing. And if you aren't being paid what you're worth to start with, you're actually going to find excuses not to do the work itself. And so it's just going to end in an unsavory way. The second thing is for the people that have established clientele and they have their business, it's like you were mentioning, you have a chance to now kind of reassess and evaluate, where do I see my business now growing? Where do I see it going next? And are there clients that I ought to consider losing or getting rid of? And it's that healthy assessment of basically like we do in our own health. Maybe I ought to not eat this anymore, or maybe I need to exercise more, or maybe I ought not do that activity any longer. And all of a sudden, as you're doing this assessment in your business, you start to establish, okay, these clients don't appreciate my work. These clients don't pay me for my services. These clients I don't have a good working relationship with. And you're able to start purging them, and it becomes more clear who is your ideal client and who it is you want to work with, and obviously charge for your services. So I like how you were describing it. So I'm curious, in your business, do you have a mantra or a kind of a quote that you use that keeps you grounded as you're working with people and offering this service, teaching this to people?
Something that probably I heard from somebody else a long time ago, and it's get comfortable being uncomfortable. But I did want to also comment on
Uh-huh.
what you did just said, or rather, probably just summarize. If
Please.
you are starting out in business, I echo what Roger has said. Start as you mean to go on,
Mm.
because if you don't, you put yourself in a weak position. That's it, isn't it? A weak position because it's more difficult to increase prices later on than it is to start off in the right way. And as Roger was indicating, often the ones who don't pay very much or don't want to pay very much are usually the most troublesome clients. And I have a terminology for them, which I think you'll love if I didn't
Please.
share that with you before, Roger.
Please. Uh-huh.
I call them PITA clients.
Hmm.
And the P stands for pain, and the I stands for in, and the T stands for V, and the A you will have to work out for yourself. And I'm
Well,
hoping this translates into wherever this is going, because I know you did say to me that this goes out into different countries.
oh, yes.
So if anybody doesn't understand that and they want to know, then just message Roger or I, and we'll explain it to you.
Well, let me just say that as I've worked with so many people over the years, I know that there's an eager desire to get your first clients. You want to get busy, you want to start making money, and there's no fault in that whatsoever. And as you're taking on new clients, there's definitely something to celebrate when someone says, "I will pay you for your services." So that actually never goes away. I don't care how many clients you have. There's definitely something to celebrate when someone sees value in what you do and agrees to pay you for your services. But the advice I always give to my clients and the people I work with is when you're looking to discount your services, when someone's asking for a discount, or when you're, as an incentive, trying to motivate an individual to make a financial decision to act now, never, ever discount your traditional fees. What you want to do is discount possibly your setup fee, the one-time transaction, the thing that is going to be a one and done. Because if you discount your setup fee, you're extending to the client, hey, because you're a family member, part of a networking group, because you're my first client this month, you can justify discounting, halving your setup fee. But if you chose to discount your services fee, it's recurring and you're setting a precedent. And although
Mm.
right now you'll get the client, later on you'll regret it, and it perpetuates. And so that discount, months from now, years from now, is still impacting your business, and you're
Mm.
losing tens or hundreds or thousands of dollars time and time again. And when it finally comes to raising your fees, at best, you're raising them to what they ought to have been to start with. And so never, ever discount those fees. You'll come to regret the relationship with your client. You'll put them on the back burner and intend to get to them later. You'll basically neglect them to the point that they will ultimately not be happy with your services, simply because you've got other clients that are paying you more to do better work. And so my advice is always keep your standard fees as they are and find other places to possibly discount your services if you're that eager to get them as a client. So that's just some quick advice there. All right. So regarding your work, you mentioned at the very beginning you were working with a program. I'm going to use the word mentor just for this. What advice have you been given from a mentor, someone that has influenced you, that has really impacted how you do business and really has impacted how you've run your company?
I think it is probably being in charge, taking charge, because very often what I see as well in people that I work with is that they're not in charge. And that's also a confidence thing,
Mm-hmm.
deciding how you want to run your business in the way you want to run it. So, yeah, it's important. So I remember when I was first told, well, if you're going to be running a workshop, you need to get that workshop paid for up front, because once it's paid for, then they're unlikely to change the date of it. But if it's not paid for, they can cancel it at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And that, when I was first told that, I understood it, of course, intellectually. I thought, this is brilliant, very good, makes complete sense. Doing it at first was uncomfortable. Now it's just a habit. So I think it's that taking charge, and taking charge of your business is so important. And you decide how you run your business. Your clients don't decide how they run it. And
I love that.
that is part of the confidence thing as well, isn't it? Because the reason why, just because I know some people like to know why, is because when you do that, you will have less problems. And actually, paradoxically, your clients will appreciate you more and value you more, because they'll see you as more professional.
Yes.
Because you're taking control. Whereas if they can just push you around, and I get this with the people that I work with, often it's not just a charging issue, it's also this taking charge, it's boundary issues, it's working for clients every weekends, and they can contact them anytime. It's crazy situations where that service provider has put themselves in a position where the client is actually driving things, not them. And so that's another thing. Whether you're established in business or whether you're new, I would say, how can you be in charge without looking like you don't care about your clients? Because it's not about saying I don't care about you. It's about making sure that your business is running as well as looking after them. Because actually, if you think about it, I also have a triangle that I haven't mentioned, which says an equilateral triangle, equal-sided.
Uh-huh.
And one side says create value for your clients. The next side says create value for your business. And the last side says look after yourself. Because what I see very often with people who are professionals, accountants and other professionals, is that they work really, really hard in creating value for their clients and looking after them. They do less well for their business, and they do even worse for themselves. And when you've got a triangle that's not balanced, the chances are it's going to fall over. That's what's going to happen. If you don't look after your business and yourself, how can you ultimately long-term look after your clients?
Yes. As your triangle, I think, visually illustrates it well. There's a statement we use, there's a mantra we use in ours, where we teach people that a good deal is only a good deal if it's a good deal for both parties. And so that keeps that equal distribution, the triangle in balance, let's say. So I like that. That was a good visualization of that. When you were talking about being a decision maker, let's say, and really taking charge, there's a lot of people that sometimes struggle stepping into that role, whether it be self-confidence or something that went on in their lives that kind of gives them that self-doubt. One of the things that we always try to emphasize is decisiveness. There was a study done years and years ago, and I remember reading how successful people are decisive. When it comes to making a decision, they have the information they need in front of them. So they're not just ad hoc making a decision. But once a decision is made, they're decisive. And what that means is, once they make the decision, they move forward accordingly. And there are times that they make mistakes. We all do. But once you've made the decision, you don't hold regret, and you also don't turn around. You move forward accordingly. And I find that in my life, being decisive allows me to move forward with more confidence, which goes back to your formula. And so I think that's how it applies, just based on you're talking about it, because some people avoid wanting to be bossy. Bossy can sometimes have a bad connotation, but what you were describing, I don't feel is that. So that was well said. So let me just break away right now for a mention of our sponsors, just so that we can throw that in as we need to. With our sponsors, we've got some great offers for everyone today. The first of which is the book In the Black. In the description of today's episode, you can actually find a free copy of the book In the Black. It's 9 principles to make your business profitable. And in there, we talk about things that you need to be doing not only within your company, but also things that you can then take to your clients to help help them understand these same 9 principles and how they actually impact their business to ensure that they're in fact profitable and in the black. The other that I'd like to point out is Vanessa is sharing with us today the book of her bestseller, The True Worth book. It's actually going to be listed in the description with an Amazon link for you to actually get a free copy, a complimentary copy of it that I would encourage you each to go get a copy of, because it's literally going to help you apply and learn more about these principles that we're discussing today. So, Vanessa, regarding the book, is there anything that you would like to share and mention about that?
No, it's quite a simple book. It's really simple, actually, because everything is simple. It's just not always easy to put into practice. There are some stories in there. In fact, the opening story is about an accountant, although it doesn't say it's about an accountant, but it is. So I think you'll find that really interesting. I'm sure some people who read it will identify with it, working too hard for too little. So it's an easy read. And I think it's good to have an easy read because you don't want to have to spend hours going through it. But once you read it, hopefully it'll make total sense to you, and perhaps you'll get a shift in realizing, oh yes, I need to really understand my value and start thinking about it and spend some time looking at that. And even get somebody to help you do that, because when it comes to your own value, because it is so unconscious, it's really helpful to have somebody else to back those ideas off with about what it is that you can do for your clients.
I like that because it's important that it's simple, that it's easy, but I agree with you. It's easy to understand. It's difficult to implement. And so sometimes we've got to then put forth that deliberate effort to make sure that we put it into place. And this whole discussion that we're having about pricing is so essential, because as great as someone may be as an accounting professional, as wonderful their skills are, their abilities to provide quality financial reports and so forth, that's all fine and dandy. But if you're not getting paid what you're worth, it becomes very exhausting and not rewarding. And it's just a question of, well, then why am I doing this? Because you could have all the clients in the world and be very, very busy. But if you're just not getting paid with your worth, it can really sabotage your excitement and enthusiasm to do the work. So definitely a worthwhile discussion that we all need to have about our pricing. So I've got a question for you, Vanessa. I want to ask about your passion, and I'm going to ask 2 things. First, what are you passionate about regarding your own business? And secondly, what are you passionate about in your own personal life?
Ooh, that would be telling, Roger.
Oh, yes.
So in my business, I'm passionate about seeing people change and the results. And it's not just the change in their business, it's how they change personally, and then how that is impacting on other people in their life, their family, in fact, because if people are not charging properly, and it's not just about the money, it's about the time. So they're working too hard, they're not spending enough time with their family. When I can help those people transform so their family do get a look in and they have got more balance in their life, and obviously the person's confidence goes up, their health improves, their bank balance improves, and their relationships improve. It can be as much as that happening. So that is something to really be passionate about, and to know that I've helped them achieve that. And if they hadn't met me, I'm thinking of a few people and thinking, gosh, their situations, especially with what's happened in the last few months, could have been pretty awful if they hadn't done that work, been willing to do that. So I'm passionate about working with people who want to change and then seeing the results they get. And of course, the feedback that I then get from them, that is the thing that lights my fire in
I
my
love it.
business.
How about personally?
Personally, I guess languages, because I speak French and I speak Spanish. So I love languages. I love speaking languages. I love hearing other languages being spoken. And so that would probably be it. And dogs as well, but I don't have a dog. So unfortunately, I'm not in the situation to have a dog. But if I go out walking, which I have since lockdown in March, I've walked every day, but probably bar about 2. So I get my dog fix. I call it a dog fix or a canine fix when I go out walking, because there's always one dog or more that is out there, especially as we've had such lovely weather. And dogs seem to like me. That's the other thing that I find quite fascinating. No, you're laughing, but this is
I am
true.
laughing.
This is true. Not many people know this. In fact, probably nobody knows this. Now, quite a few people, hopefully, if they listen to this, will know it. This is a weird thing, and I've noticed it more and more. When I'm out walking, even if I'm on the other side of the road and a dog sees me, they will always stare at me. And even as they go by, they will be turning their heads to look at me more. How about that?
Well, that just means you're the dog whisperer then.
Well, I also had not long ago, about a month ago, I was doing one of my morning walks, I think it was. It doesn't really matter when it was. And I'd got to I don't know, quite a distance away from this black dog. It looked up, saw me, and came charging over to say hello, as if I was a long-lost friend. And it stayed with me for a while. And the mother was there and the children and what have you. And I was talking to it. And I said, wow, do we know each other? Well, no, I don't think we've met before. And, as you do. And then after a few minutes, I thought, well, I better take this dog back. And I went back to the lady and said, she said he does that with people he knows. And I said, no, it's really interesting, isn't it? Anyway, I liked him as well. So I thought that was quite a lovely, lovely experience.
Yes. Well, I have to admit that dogs are amazing friends, and they're very loyal. And more importantly, I think they're very, what's the word I want to use? They help us with our self-confidence because they give love unconditionally. So if you've got a good dog, they can be very, very helpful with our self-esteem. So I see exactly what you're referring to there. So
absolutely.
I wanted to kind of dive into a word you used a moment ago. You said balance. What does balance mean to you?
Well, balance is about making sure that you're not just focused on one thing. Very often professionals who are busy running their own businesses are just work, aren't they? To me, it's important to do my physical exercise, to do my little meditations, to have some downtime, do things that I enjoy. So that to me is balance. And if you're not doing that, do people ever get to the end of their life lying on their deathbed? And I know this is not something that I made up myself, and say, well, I wish I'd worked harder.
Mm-hmm.
Or do they say, I wish I spent more quality time with my family?
Yep.
And sometimes people are caught up in what they're doing and they're not doing that. So, physical exercise, looking after yourself is really important, because if you want to be around for a long time, making sure you have time with your family, so you're enjoying it, providing you like your family, of course. If you don't, then that's another question that we'll have to do another podcast on.
Replace them with friends.
And
you can choose your friends.
Because also the other thing is, we're not machines, are we? We're human beings. And when people are just work, and they don't replenish themselves, they're not actually as productive as they could be.
Well,
are they?
I think we as individuals each have our different motivations. We have our different interests. We just need to tap into and find what those are so that we can excel and be the best that we can be individually. So, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned you speak Spanish. ¿Podemos hacerlo en español entonces?
Sí, podemos hablar en español si quieres, Roger.
Qué bueno, qué bueno entonces.
Me gusta mucho este idioma, es muy simpático, muy hermoso.
Sí, muy bonitas. Okay, we won't do it in Spanish. We don't want to turn off our listeners, but that was very good. I like speaking in Spanish.
But there might have been some Spanish-speaking people listening to this. There might be. Then they're going to be so impressed, aren't they?
Sí, por supuesto.
Por supuesto. I love that phrase, of course. They'll be ringing you up saying, Roger, I didn't know you spoke such good Spanish.
Well, real quickly, I'm going to wrap this up, but real quickly, I'm going to tell you a humorous story, and it was amazing. So I know Spanish. My daughter does not know Spanish. And one day we were doing something, and it was just humorous. She, out of nowhere, said, SOCKS. Now, when I heard that, I was shocked because I didn't know she knew how to speak Spanish. And then she jokingly said to me, yeah, all I did is I learned this. All I do is spell socks, SOCKS. And when I heard it, when I heard the phrase SOCKS, that's how it is what the phrase means. This is how it is. Well,
yes.
Well, for me, I couldn't hear the letters. She had to slow down because I was like, you spelt the word socks? I don't understand what you're saying. Yeah, I spelt the word socks. That's all I did. I was taught this phrase by a friend. She said, just spell SOCKS. And it literally took my brain moments to pay attention and hear her spell out SOCKS, because every time she would spell socks, she said it quickly enough, I would hear SOCKS. Because I was just flabbergasted. So that was a phrase that I've taught some friends since then, and they just love it because it makes them sound as if they know Spanish. SOCKS.
How brilliant. Well, no, I didn't know that one, so there you are.
Yeah, that was a
I can do the
humorous one.
same.
Yep.
Pass it on.
There you go. Pass it along. All right. So with that, let me do this. I want to do a quick recap of what it is that Vanessa and I have been discussing. But before I do that, I just want to quickly mention again our sponsors. We obviously have here for everyone in the description of this podcast episode, the free copy of the book In the Black, 9 Principles to Make Your Business Profitable. It's the how-to guide to actually implement in your company 9 specific things that you can be doing to work on your business to ensure profitability. And in learning these principles, also take them to your clients to help them apply these principles in their organization and be, in fact, the advisor you can be to help them with that. In addition, Vanessa has been kind enough to share with us a complimentary copy of her book, True Worth, that you can get in the description as well. So take a moment, go to the description, get those things, and at the same time, subscribe to the podcast and listen to the other episodes that we have here, basically committed to help you build your business and have the premier accounting firm in your area. Now, as I wrap this up, I want to point out that Vanessa's done an excellent job of not only providing a formula that we can use in assessing our pricing strategies, in determining what our value is, and at the same time communicating that effectively with confidence so that we can get paid what we're worth. But the thing that I loved about her comments were that it also gets to that subconscious level, those things that we may be doing that could be self-sabotaging our sense of worth and the services that we're providing. And if we can get into there and eliminate those root causes of self-doubt, we empower ourselves to more confidently speak to the business owners that we're dealing with confidence so that we can actually say peer-to-peer that we can provide quality accounting services that will benefit their organizations and help them where they need it most. And by doing so, help with things such as cash flow management, basically addressing maybe compliance issues and tax. There are so many things that we can do that allow accounting to be an asset to an organization's success rather than simply a liability, a necessary evil that they deal with. So with that being said, I encourage you to listen to our other episodes as well as subscribe to our podcast. And for more information on how you can apply these principles in your organization and within your business, I encourage you to reach out to Universal. You can go to universalaccountingschool.com or give us a phone call at 801-265-3777. And as always, remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care.